All right. Welcome back, everybody. We got Dan Cash, uh, famous YouTuber. We got Louis Navellier, famous investor, on here today. Matt should be on his sec. He's been in meetings. He's been really busy. You got to give it to the guy who works really hard. Hardest work right now, honestly. So that's number one. We usually talk about the market a little bit. I'm just going to cut right into Nvidia. I think Louis owns a ton of Nvidia. Last time I checked, you own some. If you do, you're killing it. So talk to us about Nvidia, why you like it. I mean, there's a lot of conflicting things out there, right? Let me just touch on those real quick, right? You know, Nvidia is like 15% of GDP, I read, where when Cisco at its peak was 4%. You know, Nvidia is like two Canadas, 166 Icelands, Visa, MasterCard, PayPal combined, et cetera, et cetera. But the stock keeps rocking, right? So why do you like it? You know, oh no, I read one other thing. You know, Nvidia went from $1 billion to $5 billion in market cap in like 600 days. I mean, we love the stock here at Total. It's rocking and rolling. You still in there, Louis? And tell us about that one.
Yeah, this is our second time in Nvidia. We're up about 4,700% in it the second time. It's over 18% of our portfolios. We've never trimmed it. And I wrote an article I write for MarketWatch and Barron's, and I wrote an article a while ago that Nvidia is a solid hold to the end of the decade because they're a monopoly, and they have a new chip next year, the second half of next year, and then they'll have another chip in 2018, the Rubin chip. And then beyond that, it's going to be very hard for them to speed up their computers because the transistors on the chips are going to be approaching the atomic level. So you can't really split atoms to speed up your chips. So then the switch will then be quantum computing. And they're, of course, leading that. They have a quantum cloud simulator. They had a quantum day contest. What's happening in quantum computing, everybody's fighting over how to program it, collect the data, encrypt it. And so, I know the quantum computing stocks are hot, but, NVIDIA is the safest bet. But I've never had a stock with operating margins like this, and they're still approaching 70%. What's fascinating this quarter is all these companies supporting the data centers. GE Vernova, Comfort Systems, FIX, Vertiv Holdings. We just had Quanta Services. Their order backlogs are up about 20% from second quarter to third quarter, but when you look year over year, they're up 50 to 65%. So, it's funny. There was a gentleman in the Biden administration. He's a professor at Harvard now, and he said that even though we had 3.9% GDP growth, it said it'd be 0.1 without data centers. But now data centers are accelerating. So I guess we'll be at 5% GDP growth right now. I mean, the only constraint is the order backlog. GE Vernova, Siemens, they make natural gas turbines. All the people that have the fancy rack systems, Supermicro and Vertiv and all those, and there's a bit of electricity shortage. So this is going to be fascinating to watch it all unfold. But 40% of my portfolios are AI appliers like AppLovin, Palantir, and then the company's just building out the data centers.
Okay, so let me back up. Dan, this is Dan Cash. Dan, anything to say to Louis here? Any questions for him?
The data centers are definitely, I would say, the first point in all of this, because during the shoulder season, back to your energy comment, so I have a brother-in-law that works here in the Northeast, and his entire job is to scale out the next 10 years of the grid. And what they actually had this for the first time this past spring is they got to the point where we're overproducing so much electricity that they got to a dangerous aspect where they were going to have to start shutting down nuclear, because in the shoulder season we're producing too much. So it's going to be kind of like the Norwegian countries that they shoot the water through the turbine up the mountain and come down, and that's how they control the flow of electricity. The data centers are kind of, I'd like to see that on the forefront, and then we kind of simultaneously build the infrastructure around it with, better, aluminum high-speed cables, some copper. Obviously, we know the government is making a huge bet in the copper space. Aluminum, I suspect, would probably be the next push on the government, because they have to build that simultaneously and they kind of have to run together and scale together. I don't know how that looks probably 5-10 years away, We probably have a time frame. It's going to take some time to get up to par.
Yeah, my main comment is under the Biden administration, you could file for a natural gas power plant, but you had to sequester the carbon by 2032. And no one knew how to do that, so that killed natural gas. And of course, he had in January 2023, he had the ban on LNG expansion. Anyway, all that's thrown out the window now, and there's no carbon sequester. You don't have to sequester carbon. LNG is wide open, and it's drill, baby, drill. But the data centers go wherever electricity is super cheap. So I would hope they go to your region if it's cheap. But the Columbia River Gorge is one. Hoover Dam is another. Boise, a lot of hydro. Reno, I have a home in Reno. That's mostly geothermal, but we have natural gas there too. Sioux Falls is hot. Chattanooga is one of the hottest. Also, Chattanooga's got faster internet. You'd think it'd be Kansas City with Google Fiber, but no. Chattanooga's got the fastest internet. And and of course, we got the whole Virginia thing going on, and Glenn Youngkin said you could have a small modular reactor, but we'll see if that melts a hole in the earth and ends life as we know it. But it's going to be interesting. The real problem with electricity in America is if you're going to send it a long ways, you need a DC grid. So there's a DC grid from Washington State to California for hydro. There's a bunch of them from Canada to New York and even Michigan, maybe Minnesota for hydro. But if you like have it in Vegas and you try to send it to Salt Lake through alternating current, you're going to lose 40% electricity. That's that crackle sound. So we've never invested in the grid. Texas can't even export outside of Texas. So it's going to be interesting how all this unfolds. But clearly it's going to be going where it's cold at night and cheap electricity and fast internet.
So Dan, you said aluminum. Did you say aluminum, Dan?
Yeah, so aluminum, because we need aluminum doesn't displace heat, whereas copper wire, you're going to lose, like Louis said here, those high tension copper wires over a span of time. Heat is a natural resistor for electricity, so it kills off some of the electricity produced, which is why, as we're especially up here in the Northeast, where we have the oldest infrastructure of electrical grid, like I live on Cape Cod, so it's from 1940, we lose a tremendous amount of in our overhead wires because they're all copper. And so we need less copper and actually more aluminum because aluminum displaces heat better. But as far as the DC grid, Louis pointed out, that's what China has. China's grid is DC, which is why they're producing about twice as much electricity as we are, and they're crushing it.
Let me ask you two questions, both of you guys. So Louis was on like 6 months ago, made some great calls. We're going to get into that. That's why I wanted to bring you back, give you a little victory lap. You got a flag or something, Louis, carry around. But having said all that, sure. You made some comments about the DC grid, and I pretty much am in control of, I run kind of like the communications back and forth, or Reddit and all that, and we had more comments from people like on that whole DC grid comment, like, oh, that's never going to fly, blah, 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 blah. Why would there be so much pushback from guys on that? Is there some like common reason why? It just seemed it seemed odd. I don't know.
You're in California, and of course, California was screwed up by Gray Davis, who started to seize the grids, and he thought he was running for president, and he was going to, through eminent domain, control all the electricity and stuff. And what happened in California is everybody says, screw you, we'll just do our own grid, and you put up solar with a power wall. But what fueled that was tax evasion. Enphase Energy, if you buy one of their systems, you can set that system so it looks like you're not there when you're there.
Right.
So I have a home in Reno, and I don't know if you know, the Schwab office in Reno is the largest in the world.
Okay.
And I live high in the hills, go through a gate, and I don't see my neighbors because they live where you are. Okay. Right. And there's a lot of wealthy Californians that enjoy California and the weather, and they just happen to leave after 5 months. But if you're pushing it, you need the fancy solar systems to help thwart the tax guy. Now, of course, you You got to be careful how many golf scores you post. You got to be careful with your credit cards. But I'm one of them. I'm in Rancho Santa Fe, every month. So belong to a golf course, spend some time there. But you got to watch the calendar.
So what are you saying, though? I don't get it. I'm kind of lost. I
What I'm
lost the
saying is
point.
California has microgrids versus
Oh,
a big
right.
grid.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's cut straight to it. So, Louis, you talked a lot about quantum and power, ion Q, since you were on 6 months ago. Double, qubit, double, D wave. I don't know. It's a lot more than a double. I don't know what you call it, but a lot.
Yeah.
Vertiv, up a ton, power, up more than a double, maybe triple, PSIX, up, AGX up, quantum services up a ton. So, I mean, like I have a son who's 23, and he always asks me what he should do. Dad, should I buy these? Should I buy these? And I'm like, God, dude, they're up like a ton. What do you say to someone like that? New guy, new investor.
Well,
It's got a
with
long
kids, they
line.
should.
You know,
Yeah, kids should buy what they understand, otherwise they'll lose interest. They have a attention deficit issue. Most kids understand Nvidia because of video games. Okay, so we can start them in that. The most of them understand Apple because of the phone. Apple next year will have a folding iPhone. It'll sell for $2,500, and anyone who doesn't buy that phone for their kids will be in therapy because all the other kids will have that phone. And so we have legal monopolies that you can invest in, and most of the Magnificent Seven is a legal monopoly.
right?
So I would get them to invest in things they understand.
Yeah,
And then you have to explain to them what earning surprises and guidance is, because like Meta gave bad guidance, so that or sloppy guidance, so they got punished for that, plus an extraordinary charge. And it's so you just have to have them. Then they'll invest more when they get into it.
Well, but just as a whole, I mean, you like these stocks. They're going 400% is not enough. They're going up more, right? That's the thought. Yeah,
Yeah,
quantum's
we're
still a
like
big
the
move ahead.
we're in the go-go 90s again.
Right.
That was the internet booms. I think we're 98. Next year will be 99. And they tried to prick this bubble last week. Well, of course, on Tuesday we had a gold correction, the biggest correction in 12 years. I do own 11 gold stocks because there's a lack of confidence in central banks. And then on Wednesday of last week, a week ago, so that's 6 trading days ago, what happened is Vertiv Holdings beat big time. Stock gaps up, and then it collapses. And there was this nasty mean reversion program. So the top 10% of stocks in the Russell 3000, 300 stocks, the ones with the best performance since August 1st, intraday, got hit 5.73%. But then they reversed the next day. So, and the sell-off was led by quantum computing, small modular reactors, solid-state batteries. They had Bloom Energy in there. Of course, it just beat. Now it's up. Was up sharply yesterday. So, the thing that investors have to know, there are just very nasty people out there that try to prick our bubbles with mean reversion programs. There are flash crashes from time to time. The credit markets have their black swan events from time to time, so that's why everybody's watching the defaults in private credit and things like that. And they're just very nasty, unscrupulous people. And I'll give you a classic example. So my wife went to Berkeley Law, and I get all their stuff, and they pride themselves in something called Fraud Fest, where they bring in muddy waters and explain how everyone invests in the stock market is a thief, and we're going to prick all these bubbles. Okay?
Right.
And if you notice, most of the good short sellers do make an alliance. Okay? And of course,
Right.
Berkeley creates a lot of FTC, SEC people.
Right.
And I can't believe one of the major law schools is bragging about their market manipulation. But you
Right.
just have to realize there's things out there, and good stocks bounce, okay? And bad stocks fall like rocks. And I just want to have good stocks that recover quickly. There's a gentleman near you down on Wilshire Boulevard who was very proud of his AI system. And his brain short-circuited on that Wednesday when we had the mean reversion correction, and I haven't heard from him since. So
Right.
obviously he wasn't prepared for that.
All right. Anything to add here, Danny? Danny boy?
Well, I got a question for Louis here. So last night, I have an AI that tells me what's going on globally for the news. And Chuck Schumer was making comments to President Trump saying he didn't want him to make a deal with China President Xi last night. Now, he had, back in April of 2022, had gotten 25 million for federal funding for quantum. This is Chuck Schumer. That got pushed into PSI Quantum out of Palo Alto, and they are partnered with Global Foundries, who makes the Omega chipset Q1. They're doing 1 million qubits, which I think is the highest right now, but they're down. Global Foundries stock is down to 35, 34, 35. No one's touching it. It's like not getting the hype, and he's still pushing for another 300 million in federal funding. What do you think about that?
Well, I think we have to give my publisher credit for promoting quantum computing. Their first one was IONQ. They just raised 100 million through underwriters, secondary stock offering. The second one was D-Wave, and they've had quite a few Rigetti promotions. So if I was running a quantum computing company and I wanted my stock to go up, I think I better have some people writing nice articles about my stock. And so it's great this company's getting contracts and all, but I guess no one cares. So, Jensen, who leads NVIDIA, of course, his comments are very important. So if I was that company, I'd go suck up to Jensen. He makes alliances with all these other companies, and he drives them higher. So, but, we are in this, the markets react. They don't think. The market is a manic crowd. You have to explain to investors, the market has a very low IQ because of how it reacts. But the good news, when all the dust settles, the fundamentals still drive the market. Now, NVIDIA is very interesting because when it announces, it often doesn't go higher because between the Citadels, the Jane Streets, the Virtue Financials, the amount of options written on NVIDIA is unbelievable. And you got to remember, these guys write all these cover calls on this stock. They don't want to fill it. So they'll run a mean reversion program to knock it down so they don't have to exercise it.
Right.
So sometimes the option market, the tail will start wagging the dog. And 42% of our options are now daily.
Right. Yeah. That's a topic we delve into. We talked about it earlier, Louis. We have 2 0DTE income funds out. I'm not clear if I'm not to talk about them on here, so I'm not going to say it. But we do have 2 out, just so everyone knows. So, Louis, I'm going to change gears on you a little bit. Yeah, smart man. I haven't asked anyone this before. Look at like some of these downtown real estate areas. Like I don't know, you name it. Like I'm from Minnesota. I went to school, University of Minnesota, so I understand Minneapolis pretty well. Like all that area where the riots were in Minneapolis. Would you ever get in there? I mean, I've seen some of these office buildings, even like these old glass things that were built in the '90s. They're selling for, 10 cents on the dollar, 15 cents on the dollar. Would you go in there and do something, or is that just kind of not your idea?
No, I mean, it's very expensive to convert an office building to residential. So I think it's at least $400 to $600 a foot to do that. So, if your apartments sell for $3,000 a foot, maybe, but, if you talk to somebody in Manhattan, 2/3 of condo owners are losing money on the recent condo sales. So, it's, the entire real estate market is very weak right now. Homes have to be discounted to be sold. And,
Right.
so I just don't think the time is right. The other thing that we have to realize is the most efficient businesses sell online. And you have a stock in LA called Revolve Group.
Okay.
And they have a store in LA and they have one satellite store in Aspen. But they don't even advertise. They sell through influencers. Okay?
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm not in them at this moment, but that model, that the Jenner model, the Kardashian model, is being increasingly used to sell to a certain demographic group.
Right. We call it the
So
Dan
you
Cash
wanna have-
model around here.
There you go. So you want to have direct sales as much as possible. I've noticed when I buy something at Best Buy and everything and register the thing, I just get emails constantly because they don't want me to buy from Best Buy anymore. They want me to buy direct.
Right.
And that's how it works. And because the storefronts are becoming passe, and this is part of the productivity miracle we're having now. Of course, this productivity miracle where we have to warehouse more and order online more is also we're having job losses because Amazon just had all these job losses. They're going to announce
Right.
more, and UPS was 48,000, and Target was 1,800, and they call it the AI job apocalypse. But the good news is it's going to make the United States more productive. The bad news is, and the other good news will make the Fed keep cutting because unemployment's their mandate. But the bad news is you can't get a job. Three
Right.
Stanford economists for the Hoover Institute wrote an article why the Stanford computer science kids couldn't get jobs. Okay,
Right.
and I had know a little bit about that because my son finished up an MBA there. But essentially, the Stanford computer science kids were demanding 2 weeks off, remote work. So the companies started to hire from Texas, Georgia Tech, and just ignore
Right.
the Stanford kids. So those kids will obviously get jobs because they're smart, but they may not get the ones they wanted because their demands are too high. But AI is eliminating a lot of jobs already, and it was also interesting is after Amazon does all the layoffs, then they also hire 250,000 temporary workers. So those are
Right.
cheaper than the full time.
Right. Yeah, but what I never
You
this
just
is
brought up
this is actually the
Amazon.
AI. This is actually the AI version of Pat right here. I've totally replaced Pat.
You just brought up Amazon, and I want to get you guys' thoughts on something with this whole EBT shut-off thing. So Amazon, Whole Foods, Walmart, Costco, they get a tremendous amount of revenue from the EBT shopping online. People buy their groceries
Yeah,
either on Amazon Prime.
yeah.
Could we be looking for this upcoming quarter? Could we see a massive drop in sales where people aren't swiping their EBT card at Walmart to buy their groceries, which Walmart gets a huge, a large percentage of the EBT users. Is that a short for Walmart, or should we be looking for like an opportunity?
Well, I think that's a bit of a risk, but Walmart used to have a paycheck cycle where they'd have strong sales in the first week and the third week because of paychecks. What happened to Walmart is they took over food retailing, and they got a lot of middle class shoppers. Okay, more affluent shoppers. So that paycheck cycle is less evident, although that EBT thing is an issue. But I'm in Palm Beach, and we don't deal with EBTs around here. So,
Right.
but it's interesting. And also, Costco is a luxury store. If you go into Costco, you got expensive SUVs, and everybody just loading up. The
You
average
know what? I
Costco
was
shopper is
actually
very,
just
very
brought up
rich.
Costco. You said one thing about Costco, Louis, which is I don't know, economics 101 or whatever, microeconomics 101. Think about it. If inflation drives wages or raw materials up 7%, Microsoft raises prices by 7%. The costs are passed through, blah, 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 blah. This is why you like Costco, right? Wow.
Yeah, and you buy your gold there now.
Right.
You don't have to go to a gold dealer.
You know what's so ridiculous is like when they started doing that, people know I'm in the business. So I had a couple people come and ask me like, would you buy your gold at Costco? And I was like, I don't know, why not? I mean, why not buy it there where you can buy it anywhere, right? And then there was all this stuff that came out that said, oh, if you buy your gold at Costco, you're going to not have a bid for it or blah, 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 blah. And I mean, at this point, it's like doubled since then. So, I mean, it's like an amazing thing, right?
Yeah, and it's great to have for the zombie apocalypse. Just talk to anybody with a Cybertruck. They're all prepared for the zombie apocalypse, and they got a lot of gold.
So do you talk about the debasement trade? I mean, you do a little bit, right? I mean, that's a theme. Or
No,
no, is
the
it?
dollar's gonna explode. If you look around the world, Asia is shrinking. Japan has the highest birth rate in Asia, but not enough to replace households. And
Right.
Asia hardly has any immigration. So Asia's shrinking. It's hard to grow your economy. When you shrink, you can't grow it with productivity, but Asia's shrinking. China's got hideous deflation since May of 2022. They overproduce, will be importing a lot of their deflation, and their rates are lower than Japan, and they'll be forced to devalue their currency eventually. Northern Europe is a same demographic issue, But you can fight demography if you have immigration. What's happening in Britain, France, and Germany? They're not assimilating the immigrants, and so it's hurting their economy. And countries like Poland and Hungary, and soon the Czech Republic, because they just elected a new guy, they will pay fines to the EU for rejecting the immigrants, and that's cheaper than accepting the immigrants because you have to house them. So I realize immigration is a big subject, but it's America assimilates immigrants. We're still pro-family in the South and the Mountain West.
Right.
And if you need any evidence what makes an economy grow, just go to Utah. I think it's been the fastest growing state for the past 3 decades.
Yeah.
And so we
kids.
just have an incredible edge, and then also our states compete with each other. Name another country where Bavaria is trying to outdo Saxony or someplace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's a good thing. Any thoughts on that, Danny?
China doesn't. So I have a stepmother she's from China, and they don't have enough people to replace because of the whole '90s single child thing. People are coming out and saying like the entire population, how much they claim that they have, is a complete lie. And so now you have like an inverted triangle where you have such a low population trying to support an older demographic. And in 10 years, China might not be the superpower it is today.
That's right. And also, if you notice, Xi doesn't travel much anymore. He did go to Korea to meet with Trump yesterday, and he will go to Cambodia or Vietnam. But he can't come to the United States because when he comes back, he may not be in charge. He's constantly purging the people that support him. He just got rid of another general, another top official. So, he's having a hard time staying in control.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on. So Ray Dalio said something, and we've talked about this on this podcast. And I don't know. It feels like this narrative has changed some, or kind of died down. But Ray Dalio just said, U.S. economy is two separate countries. The good ones, the rich and the poor, good areas, the bad areas. All that. What do you make of all that? And you've touched on that. You talk about geography more than anyone we've ever had on here. So I thought this would be a good question to ask you.
Well, onshoring is real. Whether it's automotive or whether it's data centers, whether it's the semiconductors. They finally built the Blackwell chip in Arizona at the TSM plant. And, of course, pharma. We've put Ireland in a recession. I'm sure we're putting Switzerland in a recession because we're making them build all the drugs here. So no, it's so what's the effect of all this onshoring? I think we'll hit 5% GDP growth. Automotive is the most interesting because Stellantis right now owns $2.95 billion to the EU for having too much carbon emissions. So the EU says we'll just build more EVs, and then Stellantis says no, we can't compete with the Chinese. So if my name is Stellantis, I might as well just pick the whole thing up and move it to America, where I don't have to play by any of these rules, and they can build their Alfa Romeos and Fiats and Maseratis in the South. There's 5 southern states that are just throwing money at them. I play golf in Alabama. There's 7 auto plants there, and the parts manufacturing is unbelievable. So between Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, and Mississippi, that's where the whole auto industry is going. Why operate somewhere else? So what Trump's doing, he's tormenting these people to force them to move their operations. Right. And look what he did to the Swiss. 39% tariffs, and they freaked him out, and they ran over to America, and Rubio met him, but no one in the administration met him other than Rubio, and they stuck their tail between their legs and went back to Switzerland. And Trump has watches. He sells watches. You would think that he'd be nice to the Swiss, but no, he wants that pharma industry.
That's funny. So, all right. So, where are you at on BYD? Still the same?
Well, they go to Mexico, go to Brazil. The dolphin, the seagull, whatever it's called, they rename it in different markets, is capturing market share. But Buffett did sell it, and I guess he's worried about it. Tesla uses the BYD Blade battery for their Model Ys in Berlin. Because Germany's pretty cold, and an iron phosphate battery will work better. But yeah, it's hard to compete with BYD. It's also because China always overproduces.
So this would be a stock to buy. It's way off its highs. This was one, huh? you're looking for something that's not like at all-time highs. I like this one. Any thoughts, Dan?
Yeah.
You have some thoughts on Tesla, right? You like Tesla, right, Dan?
I think Tesla is 1999 Amazon, whereas they're taking up such a big market share. Between Elon just launched his cell phone, he now has satellite. I have a friend right now who's in Exuma, and she just got hit with that hurricane, and she's running off a Starlink in a DC to AC little charger and a deep cell battery on the island of Exuma. And perfect internet straight through. He has the cars, he has the solar, he has the batteries, he's got the internet, now he's got the cell phone. I mean, if this doesn't sound like, Amazon in 1999, I don't know what else does. I mean, at some point, these are going to converge, and he's going to have the robots.
And remember, the Biden administration spent $4.5 billion to bring high-speed internet throughout the United States, and all they did is get permits and things and never light one piece of fiber. So Starlink beat them, even though it's not as fast as fiber, but it's good enough.
So, you live in Reno, right? I used to get up that way a lot. I love it up there, by the way. But having said all that, so what's up in Las Vegas, right? Like, is Vegas crumbling or, let me back up for a sec, right? We used to go to Vegas a lot. I have kids. It's a family place, I think, but my wife doesn't like going there anymore. Too expensive, all the regular reasons. What do you think's going on there, Louis? I mean, you're close. You must not have an idea.
I think private equity destroyed it. They nickel and dime you to death. They'll give you a cheap hotel room, but then you'll go get like a breakfast sandwich and coffee. It'll be $35.
At least.
I remember I had some clients at a Martha Stewart restaurant in Paris, and like a basket of bread was $20. You could get pasta for $72. A small fillet was $115.
Right.
And so none of the locals support the downtown area. Right. And if you just study Vegas, they give away those hotel rooms and they try to make all the money on the other stuff. And the demographics are hurting Vegas because younger people don't gamble, and if they do gamble, they're betting on sports. So one of our stocks is SRAD. And but yeah, you got high school kids placing all their bets now for sports.
You're right, so, like on their phone or whatever, right? Or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it. So they got attacked by that. But yeah, Vegas is having a hard time. And
what does Sport Radar do, Louis?
They're based in Switzerland, and they run books all over the world.
Oh,
but they do have a little bit more influence in Europe with soccer and all. So they weren't really affected by this whole NBA thing.
Right. That's weird, too. Right? What do you make of that, just off the cuff?
Well, I have a.
Go ahead.
Let me just. I have friends at IGT and stuff, but I will tell you this about sports betting. How you win in sports betting is you have an up and coming team in a small market playing a big market. So let's just say no one saw the Indianapolis Colts being good this year. So they'll be covering the spreads until everybody catches up. The other thing that's interesting, Nevada doesn't dominate sports betting anymore. Jersey does. And when Jersey took over...
New Jersey or the country of Jersey?
New Jersey. Okay.
Let's be clear.
And,
a lot of stuff goes down in Jersey there too, right?
If you notice, some of the NBA guys had mob affiliates, but and a lot of that was a poker problem. But I still remember when Jersey took over sports betting from Nevada, 62% of the NFL games did not cover the spread that year.
Right.
So I'm not saying the games are manipulated, but it smells sometimes. But yeah, you get
I hate the referees, man. I really do. God.
Yeah. But there'll be more bets on the New York Giants is not the wrong team, but there'll be more bets on the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Indianapolis Colts. So as simple as that. So
you can call off sides and like holding on every play, man. Trust me, right, Dan? Any thoughts, Dan?
I actually I think all the betting went to Hood, to be honest with you, to Robin Hood. Everyone that used to go to Vegas, now they just play on their phone and they bet on the NFL game. If Mike Tyson's fighting, if the Politico, whatever it is, it's all on Hood now.
Correct. And the other thing, betting's expensive in the casinos because you got to bet 11 to win 10. So you got to win 56% of the time. So yeah, Robinhood
Right.
is one of our stocks,
Look
and of
at that
course
chart. Holy
Trump's
smokes.
Trump's allowing them to lead the crypto custody thing too. So that's going to help them a lot.
Wow, look at that thing. That's like insane. That is insane. All right, so, all right, any questions, Dan? Because I'm going to go into some like little deeper ones. Like, we try to make it to like, let's try to make it like another 10. I mean, call it. So, Dan, you have any thoughts? Because I have some like more scripted, like serious questions for Louis. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing that's
So
going to kill you, but a little bit more kind of long term
you
type
had
stuff.
asked a question earlier about the haves and the have-nots, and like after this, I got to go meet with one of the VPs of Merrill Lynch, and like we joke about it, the haves are basically they're keeping their savings in the S&P, and now that the Fed funds rate's coming down, I feel like we're going to be entering like either a bull cycle or like a double top where people are just going to go, it's not worth it to hold treasuries anymore. So that dichotomy between the haves and the have-nots is just going to grow exponentially over the next 6 months, 2 years. That's really the
Yeah,
only point I want to make.
and your friend at Merrill Lynch can probably better explain it, but my son-in-law at Merrill Lynch and my oldest daughter's at Morgan Stanley, and they don't sell stocks, even though they know me. All they sell is private credit because you get 2% up front and you get about a 1.5% fee. And what they're doing is they're leveraging bad loans. And private credit was really caused by Dodd-Frank. I'm an ex-banking regulator. And Dodd-Frank made it impossible to lend unless your credit score is above 800. So if you're 798, they kick you off to the private credit guys, and then they'll help you bundle the loans. And what they're doing is they're leveraging those loans 2 to 1 to get those 11% yields. And it's a $3 trillion a year industry. It's 10% of our GDP. But if you go back to Morgan Stanley, McKinsey took over Morgan Stanley, got Mike Baker, told everybody stocks stink, horrible investment for 6 straight years. Get out of stocks, put your money in private credit, put your money in private equity, and I meet stockbrokers now. They don't know how to. Even though they still want to buy Nvidia and all, they don't know how to monetize and make a living doing that. So they have to do something that pays them well. It's called Y2B, yield to broker.
Right. Yeah, I was a broker.
Well,
So let
are
me ask you
you
a question.
saying
So the
that
private credit.
we have a big
Go ahead.
issue then with tranches, right?
Say that again about tranches.
We have a big issue then with tranches, like the auto industry. 2 weeks ago with the banks, where they're collateralizing all these debt obligations.
Correct. So that was the Tricor situation where, and they didn't file for reorg; they filed straight bankruptcy, and J.P. Morgan lost 170 million with them. You got Jeffries down in L.A. Are dealing with First Brands. They could lose up to 710 million. So First Brands was auto parts for O'Reilly, AutoZone, Napa, Walmart. But apparently there's 2.3 billion in collateral missing, and the DOJ is now involved, and Jeffrey's on the hook for that. So banks syndicate, and they help all these things, and they bought some things that haven't worked out, and they plan a certain default rate. It used to be over 7%, now it's well over 9% rising. So the question is, will this eventually create another black swan event? The Bain Capital guy was on Bloomberg, the guy that owns the Celtics and all. And the Bain founders said there's not a risk at this time. And so that calmed everybody down. But I'm down here in Palm Beach, Florida. And in 2008, everybody here was bragging about how they were earning 13 to 16% a year in tax-free munis. And I got curious, and I went to one of the presentations. It was Citibank. And the guy giving the presentation was Jack Lew. He was the head of alternative investments. And they were they were buying leveraging munis 6-to-1, and they could do that through a AIG credit default swap. So when the AIG credit default swap broke, they were forced to liquidate them all at once, and they had that. Anyway, they lost 97% of their money, and Jack Lew got fired. Jack Lew lost 21.1 billion for Citibank, got fired. And then he became our Treasury Secretary after scamming senior citizens down here in South Florida. So those munis, by the way, are still fine today, but they were forced to sell them all at once. And when Wall Street sees you coming, they drop the bids, and you get fleeced. So flash crashes are bad, mean reversion's bad, black swans that affect credit markets are bad. But if we have another black swan, the Fed's going to have to slash rates another 100 basis points just to inject liquidity into the system.
Let me ask you a question,
Because the
Louis.
banks are using.
If you have like $1 million
Go
at
ahead.
Merrill or whatever, right? I mean, you're a professional investor, different breed. But let's say you have $1 million at Merrill, and how do you see that private credit? I don't know, bond or whatever. Is it being offered in a package with like in some kind of mixed portfolio, or are they offering you like
Well,
one issue at a crack?
Yeah, the Austrian one issue to it's sold through it's sold like a country club membership. So they say, hey, I just got you in. I'm not sure when you can get out, but they got you in. Okay, and so you're just so grateful to
So you
get
own
your
the
11%
10%
yields.
of 31. You'd own 100 of those, or a million of them, or whatever. Is that kind of how it
Well,
works?
yeah, you can buy Ares Capital, Blue Owl,
I
Blackstone is
see.
huge in it,
I
and
see.
Steve Schwarzman's good buddies with Trump. So I guess he'll ask for Trump's protection if it ever blows up. Blackstone is late getting in it. Okay.
Right.
But these are what we call Y2B, yield to broker products, And
Right.
then my son, who was Bain Capital, he just graduated from Stanford. He's worked for the other private equity guy. He's sold throughout all the brokerage firms. They just raised $2 billion for another round of private equity. Wall Street doesn't sell stocks anymore because they can't monetize it. And the
Right.
10 largest stocks are 41.4% of the S&P right now. So you will find people having those concentrated positions. But it's funny. I run large cap, and we're trading at 16 times forecast earnings. My small cap portfolios, I'm trading at 6 times forecast earnings. So there's a lot of people think it will filter elsewhere, but right now
It hasn't.
these legal monopolies we have in America are overpowering everything.
Wow. Well, Dan.
So how
Got
many
one?
cockroaches
Anything else?
do you think are in the pot? Where
How many?
Jamie
I think
Dimon
he
said
said
that
how many
when you see one cockroach, it's probably two.
It's a cockroach question.
Yeah, I know about Jamie's cockroach. Jamie's always grumpy, and he'll probably be more grumpy after the mayor gets elected, and we'll see if he keeps J.P. Morgan in New York. But I like Jamie personally. He just has to hedge every time he talks. But yeah, the cockroach comment is correct. Actually, Scott Bassett said it best. He said 88% of the stock is in the top 12% of households. The next 12% of stocks is next 38% of households. The other 50% of America is in debt. Those are the people that got to help.
Right.
And that's why we got to get rates down. That's why we had to have no taxes on tips. And we got to help that part of America.
Right. Got it. All right. Last question. Yeah.
Which also
So.
describes Vegas.
Yeah. You know what? I was out there earlier this year for a thing for work, right? And we couldn't get a room, so we ended up staying at the Resorts World in this place called Crockford's, down at the end. Brand new place. They say it's going out of business because no one goes there. Like Genthine invested $12 billion in the place, and actually I think it's $3 billion. I don't mean $3 billion, and it's upside down, etc. But it was like the nicest, like most unbelievable hotel room. Like I couldn't believe it. It was beautiful. $700 a night, but beautiful. I don't know what that means. But anyway, last question.
Well, that's
So,
probably why they're going to have business because they can't get that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Matt, I had to go. I had a booth and kind of last minute, and we couldn't say anywhere else. But it was unbelievable. I got to say. Like the air was fresh in there. You're like, oh, God, this is great air. When do you get great air in Vegas? I don't know, never. But anyway, all right, moving on. All right, so 5 to 10 years. What's the best thing coming, and what's the worst thing coming? Last question. Sorry.
The longer I look, the fuzzier it gets, but I'll just keep finding monopolies, which are high margin companies that dominate their business. So the trick of my trade is I rank stocks on sales growth, margin expansion, earnings stability, earnings momentum, analyst earnings revisions, return on equity, and cash flow. And there's a small minority of stocks that score in the top 20% of all. We call them fundamental A's. They blow everything out of the water. I only have 6 now. Okay. A new fundamental A we have is EGAIN. That's EGAN, I think. I forget the symbol, but yeah, EGAIN is one. Camco, CCJ, the uranium company, is another. So
You like that one? You like
Yeah,
uranium in
yeah.
here?
I like Power Systems, PSIX. That's a fundamental A. But the main thing is I just find superior fundamentals. But I like to I need Wall Street to drive the stocks higher and keep revising their estimates higher. So when Wall Street's stops that, then the stocks get more volatile and it will crash and burn. But usually I can ride them for at least 6 quarters or so. You need a good story, and it does help to be a monopoly. But every 1,000% winner I've had are monopolies.
Would you ever trim Nvidia?
No. No, we're too cheap. We don't want to pay the taxes.
All right, so I'm going to pull. I'm going to pull up your website here. Where do we find you? Give me the best one.
Well, NavelierGrowth.com will take you to Market 360, my newsletter site.
Growth.
NavelierGrowth.com, that's the newsletters, and then Navalier.com is the management company. But we're just a
Right.
family office, and we run $1 billion. I actually sold my broker-dealer business, my management business that deals with broker-dealers.
Oh, shit.
I sold that in 2013. I was having execution issues, so I decided just to go direct and take care of friends and family. So that's what we do.
There he is. All right, sweet. All right, okay. All right. All right. Thank you, sir. Great convo. Great calls, by the way. I mean, God, you just killed it. Must be feeling pretty good, yeah?
We're having fun. It's when it rains, it pours, but we do think next year will be like 99 and even better than this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because no one's in the market. Just again,
Prince is coming back.
talk to your average financial advisor. They haven't been selling stock.
Wow. Huh. Okay.
Okay.
Well, spread the news. All right, so make sure you guys subscribe and like. Thanks, Louis. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon, man. Adios.
Take care.
See you, Dana. Bye.
Take care.